We hope you've got your cups filled with some tea because our cup of tea is ready to speak all things women's soccer with you. My name's Megan Warner and I'm joined today by my co-hosts Harlie Ford and Katie Goodman. How are you both today?
Good. Hanging in there. I always have my matcha tea latte as usual and just starting to slowly get that, caffeine drip in. So hopefully my eyes will get a little brighter and brain will start working a little bit faster here in a minute.
Yeah, I'm slacking on the tea department today.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm
It's
on the
fine.
water today.
Yeah, but I'm glad to be back, so.
Yeah, it didn't quite happen for me this morning. It kind of doesn't feel like a Saturday to me, and I'm not sure why.
Right.
But I mean, this show always gets me in the mood for a Saturday, so no better way to start it.
Right, yeah.
That's awesome.
And
Megan.
it's fall. I don't know what it feels like there, but here in San Antonio, it's like nice and crisp outside. We're starting to see some leaves fall off the trees, and so I'm just like super excited to start wearing like fall clothes and get out and do fun stuff. But I don't know. What's it like over there? Is it
Florida's been 90 degrees, so
yeah. I was gonna say Florida stays that way.
we don't
exactly have seasons.
Yeah, we don't have fall. We just have brown. The grass dies, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Canada's actually been like really hot since I've got back. Like blue skies, beating sun, like almost feels like I should be at the beach, and yet I'm like in class and working. So,
oh man, that's the worst.
A full hit. Suddenly the temperature drops, and it like feels like that perfect full weather that I just hear like these Americans talking about, and they're like wear the sweaters and the flannels, and I'm like, okay, like this, I understand this is full weather because I've been in Florida so much.
Yeah,
It's
about the crispness.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to step out feeling like it's the first bite of an apple. Okay, that's
there
fall.
You go. I love it. I love the analogy. That's perfect.
Now.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Well, okay, let's get the morning started with the latest and greatest in women's soccer. So this week we had some news coming out of UWS2 with the All Mid-Atlantic South Conference Awards being released. So the Mid-Atlantic South Conference features 6 teams from Maryland and Virginia. And the division was won by Coppermine United, who scored an impressive 25 goals for the season. And their performances for the season led to them really dominating these awards. So Defensive Player of the Year went to Coppermine United's goalkeeper, Maddie Smith, who had 6 clean sheets out of 8 matches and only conceded 3 goals all season. So a very impressive season there. No surprise Defensive Player of the Year. Offensive Player of the Year went to forward Hayley Brock-Moten, who led the Coppermine attack with 12 goals. So yet another United award for Coppermine. And then Coach of the Year was also taken by the Coppermine United head coach, Val Teixeira. So a brilliant season for Coppermine. And if you would like to find out more about who made it into the first team selection, head over to www.uws.soccer.com/UWS-League-2. So if you want to find out more, that's the link.
Check it out.
Yes. And congratulations to all of you involved in those awards and Coach Val. That's amazing. So, aside from UWS, we have a lot going on in other leagues, around the world. And this week, UEFA just announced that it has doubled the prize money for the Women's Euros in 2022, meaning that 16 countries will share 16 million euros. So the change comes as part of UEFA's women's soccer strategy, Time for Action, which intends to distribute more money across the women's game. So the tournament will be hosted in England at 10 stadiums from July 6th all the way to the 31st. So while prize money is doubled, it is still only 4.3% of the money that is available to competing countries in the men's Euros. So still some movement forward, but we'll take it for now.
Yeah, baby steps. It's fine.
Right.
Positive, but
yes.
actually put it into perspective for you.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, been doubled, but it's
still pretty far behind. Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of like the broader international stage, apparently there's some new news about the World Cup and the women's format. Apparently, there are talks of turning it into a bi-yearly competition where teams will be meeting every 2 years to compete, which, it's pretty interesting. The former U.S. women's national team head coach, Jill Ellis, she's going to be playing a large role in this decision. Her job centers around formulating a lot of the big decisions about the women's game. And it's just very interesting. The tradition is, 4 years, and that's what people look forward to. And the teams get to build their chemistry, build their themes, their mottos, the whole shebang, and turning it into a bi-yearly tournament is going to be, I don't know, it's going to be interesting. It's like more soccer. That's great, but also players are going to be stressed out of their minds. I don't know.
Yeah,
What do you guys think?
I feel like I can totally see why they're talking about doing this. When the World Cup comes around for the women's game, it's so popular. It's such a big platform that the world really gets very invested in, and women's soccer always sees a big surge of growth after
Yeah, it's the biggest thing. It's genuinely the biggest stage for women's soccer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It seems to be what people care the most about, what people really invest in, much more so than the kind of club soccer, from my experience. And I think that, FIFA agrees with that, and they're thinking, okay, if we make this 2 years, that's going to make women's soccer a lot more accessible. It's going to increase participation a lot, and it's really going to help develop the sport. So from that aspect, I think that's why this is becoming a decision.
Yeah, and also think about the developing countries out there who the only time they really have access to a global stage or have that influx of coverage and financial traffic coming their way is during the World Cup. So, maybe especially for countries like that, it could really help to keep them on the map, to help to keep their programs developing and growing. And I mean, think about it. If every 2 years you had the chance to play the best teams in the world versus every 4 years, I mean, the entire league is only going to get better because there's a shorter amount of time to plan for playing against these players. So I don't know, not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think the key word here is accessibility, which, I'm always for. Like, I'm always for that. I think it's wonderful to try and give players an opportunity to play high-level soccer and in every category. There are some cons, though, as well, like undeniable. So many players and teams and fans are concerned about the physical demands of doing something like this, and also not just like the physical, but also like the mental demands. It's a very heavy, large task in front of people.
Yeah, it's a huge cross to bear.
Very intense competition. The current England women's head coach, Serena Wigman, said players are not robots. Like, that was her response, which, yeah, like, they're not. They can't just churn out tournament after tournament and go straight into seasons. And a lot of these players have gone straight from the Olympics into club seasons, and they really are feeling the mental and physical taxes of just playing so much soccer in such a tight time frame. The amount of injuries at Man City are crazy. They're sort of like, really struggling to get a solid start to the season because so many of their players were competing in the Olympics. So the evidence is there that these players are going to need something. If this is to be a bi-yearly tournament, they're going to need more, like whether it's bigger squads at these tournaments, whether it's more players playing full time to where, there's more accessibility to the recovery side of things. It can't just be, hey, let's make this every 2 years.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they start deepening their squad on the club side, so that they have more players to pull from. Because if you think about it, all of these clubs are just kind of like chilling there whenever these players go into the World Cup. They're still having to play in the league and make things happen, but yet it's only understandable, of course, that the top priority is playing for your country. But yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if those squads begin to deepen a little bit, or if if they don't have a say as well. Imagine them saying, well, we just signed this person for X amount of money and now we can expect them to leave every 2 years instead of every 4 years. What is that going to do for us development wise for our team?
Right.
And then not only that, like, how are the fans going to react? Maybe it's so big and amazing because it is every 4 years. Maybe people get so riled up because they know it's a rare thing to watch. Do you think that moving it to every 2 years, that people are really going to get on board with that? Just the same as the tradition has been. So, I don't know. I don't know if it'll be maybe a loss of relevance or credibility if it's every 2 years or not. Because I mean, I think from an American standpoint, we all have like a pretty short attention span. We're used to things like basketball and football where there's action happening constantly. So maybe
Yeah, we get a Super Bowl every year, you know?
I know, right? And then that doesn't seem to take a hit at all. So
Um,
maybe not.
yeah, I think, beyond just like the attraction of like, having this 4 year gap, there's also like a term of economics and finances. Like when it's 4 years in terms of fans, like if you want to go to those games, if you want to support your teams, like you can save up. You can figure out how to get there and make time to be there for that tournament. But pushing it to every 2 years, right? It's financially more stressful. It's flights, it's hotels, it's travel, it's buying tickets to the games. And that also goes in terms of the countries like trying to get their players into these organizations. It's a huge affair. It's a huge financial affair. So I
Right.
think
Yeah.
trying to be considerate of how much it would cost to move it into this kind of format is a serious question.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
definitely. And I mean, speaking of flights, we had Carly Lloyd on Twitter today. A Delta flight. These players, they're flying just regular flights. So that kind of shows you that the financial side of the clubs and like the countries and that, like, they're not getting on these private jets. So if you were to increase the tournament to be every 2 years, that's such a great point to look at both the financial side for fans and for these teams. Like, while Katie did make a great point about it could be great for these developing countries to get the exposure, would they actually be able to afford to
it, yeah.
get to these tournaments?
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no.
Yeah. I mean, it may be one of those things we won't know until it happens and we find out, and maybe it will also be one of those factors that forces the hand of the government to start, putting in a little bit more money into their national team so that they
Yeah.
can participate and they can have that center stage.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we'll have to see how it pans out.
Yeah, I think it'll just be a very long conversation at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I trust that you've got the likes of Jill Ellis, who has such incredible experience, that it's not going to be a light decision. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of involvement, and I really hope that the players have a substantial say in the matter and are able to give their opinion on it, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to be doing it.
Well,
Right.
speaking of players and listening to them, our hot topic today, lo and behold, is about the Washington Spirit. Very exciting.
Yeah, we
We've
talked about them on the show last week in the news section, and I feel like they're just coming back up again.
Yeah. And you know what? There's this famous saying. It's like, even bad press is good press, but at what point is it just
Yeah.
too much?
Do
I don't
you
know.
draw the line here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in previous episodes, we have covered, the allegations against Richie Burke. He had to step down as a head coach, but the NWSL has launched a further investigation into claims of a misogynistic work culture, where not just like players are being impacted, but even female staff behind the scenes are experiencing not the greatest work conditions. So it's part of that. The fan base for the Washington Spirit, it's called the Spirit Squadron. It's a great name. Like, I love their Twitter. Like, it's beautiful. They've launched a protest and they've called for the club's co-owner, Steve Baldwin, to step down after concerns about player welfare coming forward.
Right.
Yeah.
And we found a couple of quotes here where squadron leaders were talking just to both the coach and the players, and just sending out their own press release so that they know what is happening. And they said this includes flying of flags, chants, and playing of the drums in the supporters section. Their message to the players of the Washington Spirit is that this is not a decision that we have come to lightly. We understand that our actions will have an immediate and adverse effect on the atmosphere we help to create in the stadium on game day. However, we cannot continue to operate as if there is not a cancer eating away at the heart and soul of this club that you play for and that we love. Man, cancer is a heavy word, guys. They
I
are not
know.
happy. And they say, we have seen enough. It is past time. Sell the team, Steve. So, doesn't sound like they're very happy at all.
No.
Rightfully so. I mean, think about these people who show up every day to support this team, the players on the field. They love these players on the field. And the fact that they're the ones having to stick up and take a stand for them over their own organization is really saying a lot here. So good on them. Good on them for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really great that fans feel empowered to where they believe that their actions will be able to make a difference and that they are able to come together and make a stand. It really shows how great the women's soccer community is. And we talk about it a lot because we've all had great experiences within the women's soccer community. And this is just another example of where the women's soccer community comes together and they want to fight for justice and they want to fight for what is right. And I think, while it is a shame that, the Washington Spirit players will not have the atmosphere that this squadron can create, which is an incredible atmosphere to play in, they are doing it for the greater good because they want to make a stand and they want to see a difference in a club that is falling apart, and a change needs to be made. They've had strong females in these operational business positions, like to do with the marketing, to do with the sponsorship side, and they are stepping down and leaving their positions because of the environment that's been created at the Washington Spirit. It's just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. It's hard enough to try and get women into these roles in the first place, and to finally break through that glass ceiling and make it there and feel like there's not a place for you to stay. It's awful. There's actually been controversy over the press release itself, and what the squadron has done to speak out against what's happening with the Washington Spirit. And some people think that it's awesome, it's great, like taking a stand through a silent protest, like trying to give support and show through your reaction to what's going on, show that there's a change that needs to occur. Like there has to be a change. But other people feel like it's taking it out on the players a little bit, by not cheering, by not, having your game day activities and celebrations, that the atmosphere is going to impact the players on the field. And some people feel as though that's the wrong target for what the protest is about. I personally think they're making the right call. But I know that, in some situations, maybe, the player would, rather their team, their fans be cheering for them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it is unfortunate that the players have gotten the short end of the stick on this one, that they're losing their cheering fan base. But the thing is, if people don't start taking a stand and doing something against it, then it's just going to go on forever potentially,
Right.
and so I think it's incredible that these, leaders in operations and marketing have taken a step down as a stance, because that's a really hard thing to do. Imagine it's your livelihood that you're putting at risk. It's like you said, all of those ceilings you had to break, putting at risk, um all because of this really toxic environment. Like, that's not something that people put at risk lightly. They don't put their entire career on the line for someone who just wrote a mean email, or like, there must be so many layers to this that we're not even seeing yet. And so I think that this fan base, the squadron getting involved, only helps to further bring it to the public's eye. Imagine
Yeah.
someone going to a game and saying, "Hey, well, where's the squadron? Oh, there's this huge controversy going on. You didn't hear about it? Oh, okay. Well, so yeah, it sucks that the players are getting the short end of the stick, but I think it's a necessary move for to kind of push the hand of, you know, Steve. Get out of
Yeah.
here, Steve. We ain't got time for misogyny, all
Oh
right? It's
boy. Steve
2021,
is a
dude.
hot mess. That dude, I don't know how he's been in the game this long because my goodness. He even he was well aware that there were already problems with Richie Berg when he hired him. There were allegations against him about verbal abuse that a youth player had experienced, and he still hired the guy. It wasn't a surprise.
Mm.
And when you have numerous players coming forward talking about allegations of verbal and emotional abuse, and to just push it under the rug. These conversations started in 2019. It's been 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
When
Right?
Richie Burke did step down, the club they tried to cover it up. They tried to say it was health issues. And then only when, people started speaking out did it kind of come out in the media that actually, it's because of these verbal accusations that are being made. And it's Washington Spirit have tried to literally lie about a situation and just cover it under, dust it away, not let anybody know about everything that's going on. And that completely agree with you both that it is the right option for the squadron to make a stand. And we've kind of seen in the pandemic that clubs have played without fans, and it's not the ideal atmosphere to play in, but you can still play, and it's possible to play in those conditions. And I think that the players will understand the place that this protest is coming from, and they will just be grateful and thankful that they have a fan base and have created a community that stands up for what is right.
Right. It kind of sounds like a lot of people need a lot of therapy. I'm like, can we get some team therapists? Can we get some organizational therapists in the picture? Because even if they do sell that team, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of, aftermath, occurring, especially if people are putting their jobs at stake over misogynistic, toxic environment. Those are the kind of things that create a lot of trauma that hit people's confidence in their jobs. So I'm really hoping that that he doesn't just sell the team, and that they just don't just make right on all the errors and the lies and the cover-ups, but I hope they take the right steps moving forward, putting the right people in place, giving their employees the support that they need after going through something like that for years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing is starting a different hiring practice where, you're thoroughly vetting the people that are coming into your organization. And, I don't know, it wouldn't hurt to hire some women. I don't know. It wouldn't.
Right.
It might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the hard part. It's a cultural shift. It's an entire cultural shift, because it's not just one person in an organization that does this stuff. It's usually multiple people who think it's okay because it's a top-down thing. Oh, well, the top leader or top coach, whatever, they can get away with it. Therefore, this is what we can get away with.
Right.
And so, yes, replacing those key players make a difference, but it's really going to be vetting the whole organization, the people that are still there. Cultural change is tough. It's tough, but I think, the more splash it gets in the media, and the more hopefully bad they feel about their actions, maybe the more easier it'll be for them to change. So.
Well, the worst people in those positions feel is when they lose money. And so when that starts happening.
Yep. Yeah, that's unfortunate. You're right, is that sometimes it's not a matter of them feeling bad about it. It's, oh, we're going to take your salary away, or you're going to take a salary hit or something like that. Oof.
Yep.
Ugh. Icky.
Yeah. I mean, the squadron potentially could say we're not even going to come to games anymore, and kind of, the whole Washington Spirit fan base can make a stand on that side, which would affect the players even more, which is I think why they've gone down the route of, we'll be at the games, but we won't be doing our regular game day activities. But yeah, I totally agree with you that it's the money that is going to make a huge difference to those types of people. Another thing that I've kind of been thinking is, when is the NWSL going to actually say something? We haven't really heard anything from them. They got involved when it came down to the medical protocols being not followed correctly. The NWSL stepped in and they gave the ban. They even banned, I think it's the goalkeeper's actually got like a specific ban for a game. And she actually tweeted that, you know, I've not had a negative coronavirus test and I've had the vaccination. And yet she's under a ban. So there's so much going on. And I feel like the NWSL probably needs to step in and say something. You know, we had a conversation in our Q&A where Mark Ford asked us a question about what can the NWSL, like, could they do more, help grow the game? And I'm thinking, I think they need to do more in this situation, in my opinion.
That's an amazing point, because I feel like the league in itself should have like a standard protocol and a standard cultural protocol that doesn't allow things like this to happen. Like, if your organization is in our league and you're breaking these rules and you're, you know, we have, you know, evidence that you've done these things, then that should automatically, they should feel some sort of burden or kickback from that, right? Like, they shouldn't have free reign to just run the show however they feel is fit, you know. They should have to meet some sort of standard. I mean, that is the way it is. I mean, as a yoga instructor, that's the way it is with yoga. You have to meet a specific criteria, and if some yoga instructors misbehaving or has misconduct, they have to go to the Yoga Alliance, and then they have to deal with them. And the Yoga Alliance actually protects victims and things like that. Like, they have an entire protocol in place for, you know, like lawyers and things like that. So like, why wouldn't this huge league have something similar? And I'm saying this, and I haven't done the research, they might have something in place, but you know, I would hope that they do, because I mean, they're responsible for, they're the top tier responsible organization in this picture, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I think they need to have a say in it, and I think it's about time that they do come forward and help to handle this situation. That might be the pressure they need.
Yeah, it's very interesting that the NWSL is like so public about, you know, stomping down on players who are like breaking COVID protocols, but when it comes down to, you know, actual abuse happening within an organization, it's just that, you know, they say we're investigating. That's it. Yeah. That's it. For weeks now. For weeks. It's been like months. Just investigation, right? And I understand like trying to be, you know, cautious and considerate with the things that come out. You know, you don't want to like jump to conclusions, but the evidence is in front of them. You know, already 4 players have left the Washington Spirit because of what happened with Richie Burke. You know, you have staff leaving currently because of Steve Baldwin. So I don't know. I don't know. The NWSL doesn't have enough teams as is. You know, and this team now is falling apart before their eyes, and something like that can underwrite the entire foundation of the organization.
That just makes me sick to my stomach, all of it. Just the way that you just said it. I'm just like, you know, it's a women's organization. Women's soccer is the epitome of feminism and of strength and of movement. And to know that these things are happening to undermine them in the one organization that should be empowering them is sickening. It's just not okay. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
We hear you about it. I'm like, I could go on and on. Okay, I'm just gonna spare all of you. Oh.
Yeah, definitely. Like, hopefully, you know, better news comes out. Hopefully, you know, the right thing happens. Steve Baldwin steps down. The Washington Spirit exterminates the vermin, in theory. You know,
right. There you go.
They get the cockroaches out of their organization and make sure that their players are feeling supported and safe, and including their staff as well. Because it's not just soccer players on the field. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes. We've talked about this before. Game day operations is a huge component of making sure that players can even kick a ball on a soccer field. So, you know, trying to vet everyone in that organization, trying to make sure that it's an environment where everyone feels welcome and supported and able to do their jobs, I hope that's the news that we can come to report on in the coming weeks.
Right. Something a little more positive.
You would hope. You would hope.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Definitely, it's an important conversation to have, and while we would much rather be having positive conversations, this is the conversation that should be had this week on the show, albeit not happy news. And we hope that our conversation has kind of informed you as viewers to learn about what's going on, because it is really hard to find out when you've got clubs releasing statements that aren't quite true. There's so much different media. So hopefully through this show, you've kind of learned exactly what is going on and how you can join forces with the squadron, and you can try and make a stand in your own way, whether that be on social media or whatever you feel is necessary. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on the show today. Special shout out to Jonathan Ward, the UWS and the UWS2 for helping us bring this #1 live show dedicated to women's soccer to your screens. And if you haven't already, follow all your hosts individually, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow our Twitter account, because your support means so much to us. Thank you, guys.